Welcome back to Junction 119. This is Kellan.
This is Casen.
And I'll be honest, man, I had to like re-listen to a couple of episode beginning and ends to like, oh yeah, how do we do this? How do we sign on and sign off? It's good to see you, brother. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, man. It's been quite some time.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, we are
I
go
managed
ahead.
to crawl out of the cave that I've been in since the middle of October. So uh, yeah, I had a kid and I've basically been off the face of the planet for 3 months.
Yeah, in more ways than just this cast, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and like in some ways it was like kind of purposeful of like obviously we talked about it and we knew there was going to be a break going in, but there was a lot of stuff that I just kind of put on hold to sort of take to sort of reorient my life
Hmm.
around this new uh situation. And so it's been
Being
just
a
a bit of a
dad.
yeah. So it's been a bit different.
Of course. And it's not lost on us. I was looking up some stats. I was looking up some stuff here. I want to be officially the first one to, well, congratulations, of course, to you, Kason and Morgan and everybody,
Yeah, thank you.
and the family and everything. But also as of literally this month, happy 3 years to Junction 119.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, to where this show did start in the middle of the NFL playoffs in January of 2023. So we are here. We've made it 3 years. I know it's been a while since you've heard our voices or seen our faces, but we never stopped talking to each other.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention I did allude to doing some shows on my own because I'll talk about what I was doing in that time to, counter what you
Mhm.
said. I was gonna do some guest shows. I never had one actually lined up. I never actually ended up actually reaching out to anybody for one because things got slammed there for me in November more so than I anticipated. And then I was looking at my personal schedule and I was kind of like, I don't know where I could fit a show in here. And then cramming one in before the holidays wasn't really going to work with any potential guest. And I figured, well, let's just like shoot for January. And this is actually later than I was wanting us to jump into a show. Casen really, folks, was ready like a week and a half ago.
We talked. I reached out before New Year's, and we
Hmm.
were trying to coordinate something before New Year's because I had a couple weeks off from work. And so, but I if you know basketball, that's not really the free time.
It's not, but it's also like we were probably actually going to give a show last week, like a week ago. You would hear us, but it ended up being that I was actually hosting somebody here at my place, so I was kind of oriented my life around that for a bit. But it's all good. We're here. I don't necessarily know exactly what our schedule is going to look like, but this is our comeback show. This is the longest hiatus we've taken from the
Mhm.
show. We have a very simple lineup today. We're gonna mostly talk football. We're gonna talk a little pop culture at the end, just some stuff. But just wanted to catch up with the folks who've been wondering about us. Some folks have asked us about the show and everything, and those familiar. This time, no one asked if the show was ending. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not over at all. We were, people are well aware of your situation and mine. So
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
it's great to see you. I texted Kason last night that I've missed him talking to him in this context. I've missed this show. He said the same thing back to me. So we're gonna hop into it. We know there's a lot of stories and stuff that we would have talked about. I also say shout out to James Nahikian, who was our guest on our last show before the postseason wrapped up with baseball, which we ended up being correct about that. It was the Dodgers world, and we were all living in it. Um,
Yep, yep.
but what has unfolded here? We're just going to talk some
Yeah,
ball here. Watch any college football this holiday season, my friend.
yeah, yeah. So to preface, our last show came out October 9th.
Hmm.
Um, m- my daughter was born 2 days after that. And I have been essentially, like I said, living in a cave since then. Um, I've seen uh a lot of stuff, but like I have really not been paying attention to a lot of things.
No worries.
But my recollection of the last 3 months of sports is a little sporadic
Sure.
on that. Um,
That's a given. Yeah.
but yeah, yeah,
Enough to yap about it on here for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Always. But more than anything, the playoff is what we're going to kind of discuss a little bit here today. And I think the biggest, going all the way back to what I don't know, was 3 shows ago, 4 shows ago, we had Nate on here, talking about the precedent for the college football season, only to see every prediction we had just completely not happen this year. The most unpredictable year of, I'd say, football in general, but especially college football, as we had a playoff unfold and a championship season go through, and a dethronement of the Buckeyes giving way to the mighty Indiana Hoosiers. I do have the hat right
I
here.
don't know what you're talking about. If I remember, Ohio State hasn't played since they beat Michigan, so I don't know what you're talking about.
That's funny. That's funny.
Ohio State hasn't played since November.
I do have my Indiana baseball hat here. As you recall, I did work there once
Yep.
upon a time in my life, of
Yep.
course. Some folks I knew are still there enjoying this incredible run that the football team has been on. And we'll get more into that. But it really has been, unpredictability is part of it, but also it really feels like this is a complete paradigm shift within the sport. This season really marks it because you usually had an idea of who was, going to be there at the end, but I feel like every expert, everyone who logically has a thing to say within the sport of college football this year was just completely off. Like no one was correct. You know what I mean? And I think you're starting to see the result of this new reality of roster building and very year to year in college sports in general, but especially roster creation in college football. And did it take something like this for a Kurt Cignetti to take one of the losingest football programs in the history of college, really American sports, to potentially the promised land, and one win away from us talking about them on similar echelons to 19 LSU, 01 Miami, stuff like that? Did it take something like this to happen?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been talking a lot about the portal and stuff since all this stuff became, because the whole process of this happened during the life of our show.
Yeah.
And so we've talked a lot about it on here, and I it is truly incredible. To take a program like Indiana, one of the biggest jokes of the conference, one of the biggest jokes of the area, and then within 1 year he turned them into a really, really good program, and then the next year they're one win away from a title that no one would have ever believed they'd be able to win 3 years ago.
They're a flawless team. Like they don't have a flaw.
and it's really, especially with guys who aren't even like top talent.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's, I think, the biggest insanity of this whole thing of like, this isn't a loaded 5-star roster. Like he took a bunch of portal guys and there's a lot of solid talent there, but like nobody knew who Fernando Mendoza was 2 years ago.
No,
Like
no. I mean, outside of Miami and Cal, right?
And then now he is here, Heisman, with probably going to be the number one pick of the draft. Like it's just like, what?
Yeah, and it's almost like every dream scenario that an Indiana grad or fan ever had in their head of, oh, I wish this could happen with football, happened all at once in 2 years, like it's a video game. And I said this to a couple of people. It's not just that this is an unprecedented turnaround. We've never seen anything like this before. Like this is a one-of-one thing in all of American sports. Like there's nothing even to compare it to.
Like this,
there's not.
This is. I mean, it feels a bit like 19 LSU, but like even then, the 19 LSU had won before. They were
absolutely
a destination program. 01 Miami had been good forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is never before. Like this is. Imagine somebody just showed up in Bowling Green and then they won. They took like it's insane. Like this is like Coach Sig is like out here playing college football 26 with his roster, and then it's just like it's like this is video game level
on
stuff.
freshman
like,
mode.
Yeah, like
well, and it is so unprecedented the run they've been on. Obviously, we'll just run through it real quick. Obviously, defeated Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Is the only team to break through the curse of the bye weeks, which we can
Yeah.
kind of get into a little bit. But they stomped on Alabama, who went through and beat Oklahoma before, and now they essentially beat Oregon from the opening play of the drive when they pick sixed them.
That
And
Oregon game, it was like the Rose Bowl last year. It was
yeah,
like Dan Lanning was out there having Vietnam flashbacks.
yeah.
It was like this is the same game. Like this is the Rose
This is
Bowl last year.
it is, and it's crazy because I was the one saying to a lot of Ohio State fans after the Big Ten championship win, which which now we need to commend Ohio State for putting up a fight against this Indiana team like they did, losing by 3 points. I remember saying to people, I'm like, okay, if Ohio State makes it back to the championship game and it's a rematch, giving Coach Cignetti a second crack at this team, they probably will beat them by more. And that is what happened to Oregon here. You put them in a neutral site location. Oh, it's just a bludgeoning. Okay, got it. And it's not a home game for Oregon. So, pulling it back, you got these plucky guys who are all 3-4 stars. I think anyone would have thought that something like this was possible, but it's so unprecedented that it has sparked conspiracy theories as to how they are this good. And while I don't buy into any of that, that's how unbelievable it is. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
the kind of Hollywood script that would get tossed out of the room because it's not realistic enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh, come on, that would never happen. Well, it's happening. Like it's happening like all at once. So that has been Indiana's run to where we are. Go
I
ahead.
mean, look, I mean, we all saw what Cignetti did at James Madison,
Yeah, for
and
5 years.
so clearly he's really really good at getting the most out of what he has, and have a program like Indiana and they have people who are willing to spend money,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah,
then you can pay to get certain pieces to help complete the puzzle. And so I think it just comes down to like Coach Sig is the type of dude that like the world against us is his
hmm,
motto, is his world, and he's able to get the most out of these dudes who are just like, all right, nobody else believed in us, nobody else wants me, like we're gonna play for him, for ourselves, for IU. Like
for anyone who ever
it's
said we
yeah.
couldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, and I
Yeah,
think there's a whole lot of thing of like the Hoosier fan base for football in particular has believed this, like we are never going to win anything, we're so bad, that like once you kind of say no, we will, because we aren't bad, then
hmm,
like the whole team can get behind that. And it's very interesting to see. I mean, it's a culture thing. It's it's a very specific like mix of ingredients that had to go into this. Like
it
it couldn't
is.
happen anywhere. It had to
I
be
agree.
a certain type of place like that, of which, by the way, I think it probably coincides with sort of like maybe the dip in basketball,
Mm.
that the fan base there is really clinging to something, and so now they have football.
Yeah, you're right, and I think yeah, I think people also forget how big the Indiana alumni base is. It's like one of the top three biggest
Hmm.
in the country. They have a lot of branch campuses, and I learned a lot about IU when I was working there. And had things gone a little differently, I might have been an IU grad myself. I was flirting with the idea of grad school there once upon a time in my life. Nowadays, I'm just kind of like a fan by proxy because I love the story and I love Coach Siggs. And he's from Pittsburgh, by the way. Every time he speaks, I'm like, yep, he's a yinzer. He's a ball knower. But he's also got this like job's not finished mentality. Anytime you see him, like it's not just that they're beating teams, they're leaving their starters in and whooping you for 60 minutes. Like, no,
Yeah.
we're not like we are like Signetti sees a touchdown to put his team up by 40 and he's still not smiling. Like it's a whole full mentality kind of thing. I wanna kind of shift the conversation a little bit because we will get to their I want to get to kind of their opponent in this too, going along with that same kind of unpredictability. This is a new everyone's talked about Mario Cristobal and how the Miami Hurricanes have gone through this playoff, pretty much whooping the Buckeyes. No one saw that coming. I really did not see that coming
I
at all. I'll be honest.
So what I'll say about Miami. So I'll put this in the lens of Ohio State because
Hmm.
Ohio State lost to both of them back to back.
Yeah.
Um, and the Indiana game and the Miami game basically came down to they both were played like last year's Michigan game, where
Yeah.
Ryan Day doesn't know what to do when he's up against a team with a really stacked defensive front, and he just doesn't know what he doesn't know how to process that, and so like that essentially became the downfall. Like the reason they were able to beat Michigan this year was because Michigan was a little bit lighter up front and they were able to play a bit more well-rounded of a game. But when they're stacking the box the entire time and they can't run on them, and then because of that, like you have to pass, and they know you're passing, then like you don't like there's nothing you can do, and so
Yeah.
and he just gets into these things where he like just he doesn't know how to coach his way out of like getting in his own head, and
Yeah.
so
When he has to it's almost like when he forces himself to have to like call a conservative game because that's what he thinks he has to do. Like we
yes,
have to
yes.
steal yardage. And it's like, or you could just light up. You could just light it up. I mean, honestly.
There's also this thing too that he does where it's like where if they're not if they're getting stuffed at the line, he keeps going to prove a point that they
Yeah.
can,
Hmm.
and it's just like, dude, that's not working. Like,
And
do
the other
something else.
I know people kind of crushed saying in that game and everything, but let's face it. Those two games against Indiana and then Miami were the first time he's faced any real pressure in his college career as
Right.
the starter. Like
I
real pressure that he's got to deal
and
with. Like you
yeah,
got to get the
right.
ball out fast. Like because you don't have it, and that's going to rattle any young quarterback. Any. Like I really think like they have the
Yeah.
defensive line. Like I don't have the time I've had, and you're having to do it all at once. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think there were a little bit higher expectations on that offensive line than what they
Yeah.
produced. And so that kind of became the biggest problem.
They got a little exposed, I'll say,
But
the offensive line.
it is what it is. I mean, I don't think I whatever. Hopefully next year will be a bit better. But shifting back to Miami though
Sure.
it is it's really interesting to see Miami here because like there were a lot of questions about Miami because of some of the things that happened during the regular season. But if you really look at it, like Miami and Indiana are kind of built the same way.
Hmm.
Like they both sort of have their own like culture and vibe to the program. Um they both kind of have like they're built very similarly with massive players up front that can really fight for the yardages that you need.
There's a
And
mentality among the team that like they can't really do this. Like, I
yeah,
would say that exists for Miami too, because that's why
yeah,
Cristobal keeps saying, "Don't say the U is back. Don't say the U is back," because in reality, for him, this is a new U. Like it's nothing like the old days when the whole Nevin Shapiro stuff was happening and the controversy of the past. Like Cristobal actually, from the sound of things, runs a really tight ship there. Like team rules and everything. They're really well behaved guys and everything. And it's like a rebirth of a program that does have riches in its past, but those are so far in the rearview mirror that I'm like, yeah, he's brought them back in a new way. And he has them believing like, yeah, no one thought we could, no, heck, we didn't even win the ACC championship. No one thought we should be in over Notre Dame. Like, okay, well, let's just go out and beat Ohio State. They do,
right.
and they go out and they beat a swashbuckling Ole Miss team that, to be fair, if there were 3 more minutes left in the game, Ole Miss probably would have won. Because that's another story in itself, and we're not going to go down the rabbit hole on all these teams, but Miami has some similarities there in their mentality to Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really interesting to me is just like looking at the Miami schedule. It's just kind of like, I mean, they have two losses to Louisville and SMU,
Yeah, I was looking at it too,
and
and I'm like, I
and
forget who beat them.
and it's just kind of like they came out of nowhere because they didn't really play anybody. Like they played Pitt when Pitt was ranked
They played the
22.
ACC. What can I say?
I mean, they didn't really play anybody, and they lost to two not good ACC teams. So
Yeah,
it's just like like no one really expected them to be for real and legit. And then when they show up and and kind of dominate A&M, you're like, okay.
yep. Start to them.
And then they show up into the big boys against Ohio State. You're like, okay, this is weird. And then the Ole Miss game, you're like, okay, maybe we'll see. But even then, like I use still favored by 8.5. So it's just like,
Well, well, let me say this. It's
oh,
impossible to.
and by the way, nobody's
Mhm.
talking about the fact this is at home in Miami either.
You know,
Like this,
that
it has
that
not been talked about enough that this is in
that
Miami.
agreed. I will agree. It has not been talked about enough. However, as I will point out, I want to say on two other occasions, Miami, literally this exact program, also played in the Orange Bowl with the national championship on the line. Like it happened, like in where it's their home stadium. And in those days, it really was more their home stadium because it was closer to
Mhm.
Coral Gables and everything. If you don't know this, where the Marlins Stadium sits now is where the old Orange Bowl used to be. In relation to the city. So not on campus, no, but it was more of an old college football like stadium. Um, that's like they play like an hour to 45 minutes to an hour away from campus now. But let's be real, Miami is more of a city team. Like the city's
Mhm.
team in the long run of the history of the city, and this is coming from a friend of mine. They have not embraced a single team in that city like they embraced the Hurricanes at the two heights. Obviously, I think it closest thing is probably when LeBron was there with the Heat. But even then, I mean, the city pride of Miami, those guys are from Miami. A lot of them are from Florida, so it's their team. Um, that said, it's happened before, so maybe that's why it's not getting talked about as much.
Mhm.
But yeah, for this to be happening in the modern era is pretty wild. That being said, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be 50-50 in there. I mean, Indiana has a lot of fans too that are
Yeah.
fully aware of that exact fact you just said. Like, okay, we're not going to let the Miami folks just completely descend upon our guys. We're going to make sure some cream and crimson is in there. So, plus
Right.
don't they allot the tickets 50-50 anyway. So,
Yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah.
so I mean, Casen, who you got in the game?
I
What happens on because it's Monday night, right? It's going to be the 19th
it is tomorrow night.
tonight by the time you hear this
Tonight by the
show.
time you hear this. Yeah, I obviously it's like a cop out, but I do like Indiana a lot more in this game. Just because if you compare the games, I felt like Indiana dominated Ohio State more than Miami did.
Yeah.
I feel like Indiana's been a lot more just ruthless and just absolutely like okay, whatever. Like I think Miami has a chance to put up a good fight. It's just I think it could be close like in the third, but then I think Indiana will just run away with it towards the end a little bit.
The Indiana seems to be getting better per game. That's the other
Yeah.
thing that's a little spooky. I will say this. I will say this. I also will pick the Hoosiers to go the perfect 16-0, and we're talking about this team for a while. Heisman, Mendoza, all the guys getting it done. I will say this though: if this Miami's able to beat them, 100% deserved. Hats off to them. Incredibly impressive. We agree. Like,
I mean,
like,
yeah, but like the part that still confuses me is like if they somehow walk into Hard Rock and beat Indiana, I'm like, you lost to Louisville and SMU and didn't even play for
yep,
the ACC title, and you
yep,
won the national championship
sure
game?
did.
Like what? Like in what universe?
Sure did.
Like
It's all about the you, homie. They're going to be like, "Yep, we did." I'm like, "Okay, this sport just makes no sense then." Like, I just it's all out the window. It's all whoever's hot on what day. Okay, but I actually agree with you. I think the first half, and this could be famous last words. First half, I think is going to be close. I think it's like a one possession game going into halftime, and I think Indiana pulls away in the third
yeah,
and
yeah.
puts their noses in front. I don't think Miami gets dog walked. If they do, well then okay. If this, I mean, we could be sitting here in a few nights, Casey, and we just watched like Georgia TCU. Like I don't, that could
Yeah.
happen. I'll be like, okay, just give them the trophy now at halftime. Yeah, just go ahead and do it. Where we see the other Mendoza in there by the end of the game. But no, the Sigs would leave the starters in the entire time. I mean, it's just how it goes. But yeah, and I guess the last question I have just before we kind of maybe not wrap up, but like get our thoughts of college football. Um, if that were to happen, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about this narrative of do you think long run this would be bad for the sport? I've had some people talk to me about this and ask me about it. Like in the precedent it would set for new coaches, especially at a time where we just had the craziest coaching carousel. that I can remember in our lifetime, at least in college football and to pro to some degree too.
I
For Cignetti, in other words, what I'm saying is for Cignetti to show up to a
yeah
program like Indiana and in 2 years win a national championship and potentially more. Like I think this could be the next this could be the next dynasty. I mean, I think
yeah
we could be
yeah.
have the IU Trident as
It,
the standard in college football for the
he's
next
not
decade.
he's not going anywhere.
He's not, and that
Yeah.
scares me because if his second year team can do this, his third year team, I mean, like I'm going to be sitting here thinking who's going to beat him, But
Yeah.
one thing at a time. They haven't won the championship yet. If that happens, what does that do to the expectations of college
I
football?
it's not good. Because we've had conversations about this before where like typically in typical college fashion,
Mm,
you need a guy to have like 3 years to really get his guys in there to build up his program. But if Cignetti can get in there 1 year and make the playoff and be competitive, and then in his second year win the championship, like then guys going to get 1 year, and like
yeah,
there's going to be one and done college coaches, and
Lane,
I mean
Lane Kiffin, you better do it within 2 years. Kalen DeBoer, you should have already done it in Alabama. You know what I mean? I just feel like I
I mean
I'm
it's
acting
stuff
like the
like this.
expectations. Yeah,
It's stuff like this where like I mean we talked about it when it happened, but like James Franklin, we
yeah,
it was kind of surprising, and you're like, oh wow, it's like okay, but at the same time you're like, well, Indiana got this guy. It's like this guy's already better than anything James Franklin's ever done.
right.
So it's just like I guess, but like you really have to get the right guy, and so it's gonna come. There's gonna be. I think there needs to be a lot more effort put into the coaching searches though.
Hmm.
Like I think if you want to have hairpin triggers and like really high expectations on your coaches, then you need to do a really good job of finding them.
Yeah, you do
Like like you can't be settling
a better
for
job than you've been doing.
right because there's a lot of athletic departments and athletic directors who don't really do that thorough of a search. Sometimes they just Google who has the biggest offense and then hire the cheapest assistant from that team. And so if you're going to be really uh, finicky about like how long you're going to be paid, or if you have so very small amount of patience to wait for them to win,
Yeah,
then you need to really get the right guy.
you do, and I would actually add to that. I'll speak for the athletic directors that aren't here that would sit here and say yes, but at the same time, you are up against the clock. You have to get a guy as soon as you can, and I get
Yeah.
that,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
I
yeah.
get that. And that's totally like, oh, we understand that. I'm not saying that. It's just like I also will say this. I think there's something to be said for um getting the right guy, but also the timing. I mean, the number one thing Signetti has said, like, how did you do this? People. I think there's something to be said about what you said that maybe this couldn't have happened any other place. Like I had a conversation with someone that said that like Signetti was on a short list like the year before Fran Brown was like chosen at Syracuse, and I said, There's no saying that the same thing would have happened if he was the coach at Syracuse. There's no saying. Different resources, different place.
I would definitely wager it wouldn't have
Yeah,
because
right, because it's the
Syracuse,
ACC, it's
yeah,
not the Big
yeah.
Ten. I'm with you in that. I don't think this could have happened many other places as fast as
Yeah,
it has
yeah.
for a
I
lot
mean,
of what you've already mentioned. So,
along with the fact of like I'm pretty sure I read that like Cubans backing up the Brinks truck to fund this whole thing
oh,
too.
dude, yeah. I mean,
Like,
yeah. I mean, I'm sure Mark Cuban's like, I've been waiting for this my whole life. You have a blank check, man, whatever you need. Like,
yeah,
I mean, this is going to be, I mean, he not only that, but Cuban is going to make a lot of these other billionaires out there or millionaires that would have influence on all these other programs. Like, all right, guess I got to put my money.
but here's the really
This.
here's the fun thing though is if you're a billionaire but not a big enough billionaire to buy an NFL team,
Yeah.
you can buy your college football team and pay your way to a national championship.
Listen, all I'm saying, and this is a different sport, I'm just going to make a plea for the donors out there that have any interest in Bowling Green hockey. Buy a roster. I'm just saying it's possible.
Yeah, I'm just
if
saying.
anything,
I'm
if
just
anything,
saying.
hey, the Western Michigan just won the national championship last year.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying. I'm
I,
just
I'm
saying.
just saying Connor McDavid has 4 years of eligibility left. So anybody want to back up some some Brinks trucks
That would be
to give
stupid.
him a 4/50 deal? We'll be fine.
Yes, 1 year, all in, party like it's 1984. Only we don't back in. We're the one seed. We're going all the way. Anyway, that's fun, but I think that right there is the crux of because that's so funny to us. We've seen it be possible now. Like
Yeah,
theoretically, you could just throw a lot of money at a roster and say, "Hey, let's see if we can win it all." You know, I'm not saying it's pay to win because you still have to play out the games,
look, and here's the
but
thing: that's not sustainable for anyone. But
exactly,
most schools at least have one rich alumni who
yeah,
can do it. So you'll see little pockets of like this guy's buying this title over here, this guy's buying a title over here. Like it's gonna
yeah,
help. Like it's going to expand who can win. Maybe not that widely, but like if you want to be mad about it, like we've talked about the portal and all the NIL stuff. We're now about to have like Michigan, Ohio State, and Indiana winning the titles after Alabama and Georgia like ran the whole thing for a while.
yeah.
And like, look, I'm just saying, like the SEC car dealership money has nothing on Big Ten alumni bases. So it's just, it's just the ESPN media ecosystem being upset that the SEC sucks now. Like,
Yeah, there is a little bit of that, and it's funny because I not to belabor the point too much, here, but yeah, you did hear about the SEC for the longest time in the BCS days, and now like really the Big Ten runs college football. Like it has been that way. This will be if Indiana wins, it'll be the third straight Big Ten team, third straight traditional Big Ten team. I will add, no knocking to Oregon because I think Oregon's can be good enough to win it at some point.
yeah,
But yeah, I just think that you're seeing that paradigm shift. But I think the other thing about it though, Casen, is the SEC fans at times can be way louder than the Big Ten fans were when that was going on. They're gonna be like they're still gonna breathe all things SEC, right?
yeah,
So especially when you add like fan bases like Oklahoma and Texas to it too, it's like they're gonna complain about the SEC and everything too. So I'm looking forward to the game. I am not necessarily pulling for either team. I mean, I have been pulling for Indiana, but also I have friends who are Miami fans, so I'm just hoping it's a good game. But one way or another, history will be made in the second season of this playoff. And I guess my last question is, how long until we see a playoff change to where the bye week isn't a thing? Like, are they going to keep
yeah,
tweaking this thing? That's the last thing we should
yeah.
talk
I
about.
don't
Then we can
know.
get in the
I mean,
NFL.
I think I definitely think that that'll get pushed and changed at some point. I have no
I think the
idea
sample size is
what's
big enough that
yeah,
it needs to.
yeah,
Like I think it needs to. They need
yeah.
to tweak that somehow. For
I
one team out of 8 in 2 years, like come
and
on.
like where I stand, definitely conferences like the Big Ten, the SEC should probably just get rid of their conference title game
I
because
yeah.
because with the conference that big, it doesn't really matter anymore. Like with the sides not being there, it does like just it can play out in the regular season. I mean,
I also wouldn't mind if they got rid of championship games. They don't want to do that because obviously you lose out on the game and the extra games were the money.
mhm,
But like if you were to theoretically do that in a perfect world and move this whole thing up 1 week, you know what I mean? You wouldn't necessarily have the need for bye weeks, or the bye weeks wouldn't be as like the completely debilitating. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So we'll see. So you want to talk some NFL since
yeah.
since one of your favorite things in the world happened literally the night before we recorded this show.
Yeah,
I,
let's get to the coaching carousel first.
let's get into the coaching carousel first because one really big thing happened in the world of both our teams are going to have new coaches.
I well, let's start there. Mike
Yeah,
Tomlin is no longer the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
yeah, man.
Did you fully expect this to happen?
So
Were,
let me set the scene for you a
I
little
know you
bit.
wanted it to, but were you expecting it to?
So I'll answer your question right off the bat. No, I was not expecting that. I will say though that for the last like month of the season, this year felt different. The fans were a lot louder. The pressure from the media, famous Steeler like fans and alumni were all saying, "Yeah, I think unfortunately the proof is in the pudding now." To borrow a phrase, a cliche phrase, like This was the loudest I ever heard, and the Tomlin defenders were just gone. Like it was just kind of one of those things where there was no one defending Mike Tomlin anymore, and everyone had the same take. Oh, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest coaches ever. But, and then everything that followed that but was just something that I think most Steeler fans, agreed. And of course and let's be real, they were one missed kick away from not making the playoffs and their season ending right there instead of only outlasting another week like I thought it might. And by all intents and purposes, they should have lost that game, but they didn't. The rookie kicker misses the kick, and of course, the Steelers win. They win the AFC North, which, all intents and purposes, was bad this year. And they make it to the playoffs, and then they get stomped on by the Texans in a game where they can't score any points. And I was actually watching that game with a friend of mine who I work with in a hotel room in Buffalo, New York, the night before our game that I was working. We watched that game, and then we were actually together again, me and this friend, when the news broke the next day. So it was like a surreal moment of, oh, wow, we saw that end. Oh, wow, we watched him coach his last game in Pittsburgh as the head coach. So the whirlwind of that, like 2 days, was kind of crazy. But we talked about how, it's felt different this year. There's a lot more loud. And I just think that around then, it's sort of one of those things where when you're Mike Tomlin, you're looking around and it's sort of like the longer I stay, the more hated I'm going to be. And for which is so unfair for a 19-year legacy that is really incredible. It's really very good. He goes down as one of the pillars of the three, one of the three guys since 1970 or whatever. It's incredible, but at the same time, I just think that he woke up, and I don't think it happened the day of. I think it happened like maybe a few weeks ago or a month ago, and said, "When the season is done, I'm done too, at least here." Yeah. And maybe done coaching, because a lot of people have compared this to Bill Cowher, in that Cowher walked away a lot, and mainly because of family reasons. Everyone always thought he would be back. Remember, everyone was always talking about like, oh, he'll probably take a few years off, and he never came back. He never came back. He's a Hall of Famer now. Thank you very much. And his Hall of Fame like reveal was one of my favorite ever, live on air. Mm-hmm. But not only is he a Hall of Famer now, but he's like a pillar on the CBS,
yeah, oh yeah,
NFL now. Like he's one of the best voices on it. So
it's crazy because it's like Bill Cowher it hasn't coached in 20 years, and he's not even 70.
Right, and like I hear him talk about football, and I'm like, this dude could go back on the sideline right now and probably coach a really good game. You know what I mean? This dude just knows so much. But he found his work-life balance in football, and he never came back. And I really think that something similar could happen to Mike Tomlin here, because I don't think he's coming back to coaching immediately, if he is at all.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. I think he'll probably do a good job in media, but my thing with Tom, so it's twofold. So
yeah,
there was a realization going around after they lost to the Texans that Mike Tomlin hadn't won a playoff game since the Obama administration.
Yep,
which is insane to just like really put into your brain.
Very
and,
much
like, think
so.
about. And then I also did a check. Sean McDermott has a better playoff record than Tomlin
overall.
Like
I believe it,
because they have the same amount of wins.
I believe it.
Like,
yeah,
because Mike Tomlin won those Super Bowls and then like basically never won again.
Back up. He won a Super Bowl.
Or sorry, he won the Super Bowl
to 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, sorry, he went to those Super Bowls. Yeah,
and he inherited a roster, which Bill Cowher aside, everyone says he inherited Bill Cowher's roster. That roster had like 10 Hall of Famers on it. Okay, so okay, so
but what I will give to Tomlin is I don't really know how to really make peace with this, because what I will say to Tomlin is like Tomlin has really done nothing impressive in 10 years. Like if you're just like saying having a winning record, okay, but then at the same time he has not really had anybody on the roster after the Killer Bees fell apart.
Mike Greenberg said something I thought was pretty astute, though. He did say something. He said, "Are we crushing Mike Tomlin because he couldn't get it done all these years and could only muster like just a winning season and make the playoffs? Or was he the only thing dragging a mostly mediocre roster over the last 10 years to the playoffs each year?" I sat there and said, that's really, really a good way to put it. A little bit of both, because I think in the Killer Bees days, The defense wasn't very good, and there were just some decisions made that could have gone a better way. I think that team at its core probably was good enough to win a Super Bowl at one point, and the closest they got was that one of those last runs of Brady, and they got stomped on at Foxborough, and it was just the same thing as when I was growing up, and we've never been that close again. And but there's also the other part of me that's like, yeah, but like every single year he would do something with nothing. Where I'm looking at the roster, I'm like, okay, the Steelers aren't going to be good this year, and then he
Yeah,
somehow wills them to 9-8 in the playoffs. It's
yeah.
like, okay,
And then you think about like the last 5 years, and you're
yeah,
like, he hasn't really had a quarterback. But
no,
like who? But at the same time, whose fault is that? Like
yeah.
the general manager, but at the same time, you're Mike Tomlin.
Mike
Like
Tomlin
demand
is
demand a quarterback.
Yeah,
Like
Mike Tomlin is like the number one voice in the draft war room every year. That's like known. So he's just as responsible for that. And I
and
think
and,
no,
and
yeah,
it's and the
yeah,
coaching staff like having borderline inept offensive staff is his job. Like
yeah,
that's on him.
that is on him.
Like
And
so
yeah, he doesn't know much about offense. His hires on offense have not been good. As much as the Steeler fans really hated Todd Haley by the end, I would argue he's the last decent offensive coordinator we've even had. That I think was actually qualified for the job, well, besides Arthur Smith, but I just former head coach kind of stuff. So it's fascinating as we sit here and speak, bro. The search is ongoing. I do think we could hear some news as soon as this next week. The short candidates already have sounded like Steeler interests. Brian Flores has been talked to. The passing director for the Rams under McVay has been talked to. There was a joke. One of my friends did a joke and acted like Tomlin's agent. Hey, hey, Mike. So we literally have 30 NFL teams that want to talk to you, including several that are still in the playoffs for potential coaching gigs, and not necessarily all head coaching either. Like, it's funny, but like that was a joke of his. I thought that was funny, but um, yeah, as we sit here, we'll see who the new Steelers coach is, and I think maybe by our next show we might be talking about it.
yeah. So
Go
I
ahead. Yep.
circling back up to round up all the openings that happened this year. The Cardinals, they fired Jonathan Gannon. The Falcons, they fired Reem Morris. The Ravens, which that was a big surprise,
Another
sort
big
of.
surprise. Yep.
They finally parted ways with John Harbaugh. The Browns fired Kevin Stefanski. Raiders
Yep.
fired Pete Carroll. Shock. Dolphins fired Mike McDaniel. Giants fired Brian Daboll.
I'd say no one else was really
And
shocking.
the Titans already fired Brian Callahan during the season. And so yeah, so and then as of now, there's two openings filled. The Falcons hired Kevin Stefanski,
Yep.
and the Giants hired John Harbaugh. Which I think probably I like the fit for both those. I mean,
I do too, actually.
I think Harbaugh is going to fit really well with the Mara family, and he really feels like a giant type of guy. And
He
and
inherits a pretty hungry roster too
yeah,
of young
the
dudes.
the
So
Stefanski thing in Atlanta, I called immediately because he and Matt Ryan are both from Philly. They're like the same age, and then I'm like, yeah, of course Matt Ryan.
yeah,
Oh, Matt Ryan became like the president of the Falcons. By the way, that's not shocking at all.
that's true. It's funny. It's funny you said. Do you remember that story I told on the podcast a while back about the Browns helmet sitting in the bar in
Yeah,
Avalon, New Jersey? Makes me wonder if this next summer it's going to be there's going to be a Falcons helmet in there, signed by him. Just
yeah, I'm sure.
who knows? You can go back and listen to that story. But you did call that. I want to go ahead and ask you. I mean, what's next for the Browns?
So I here's the thing. I do not believe I have watched a second of Browns football in like 5 months.
I believe you.
I watched like the
You
first
were
couple
barely
games,
watching
and then
them when
I
we were still doing
um
shows.
and so I am like completely and utterly tuned out of the Browns right
Checked
now.
out. Yeah.
Like it's more of a thing of like I have yet to, because here's the thing. I was like okay, whatever. When they fired, I was like, I get it. Like we've seen this. I still think Stefanski's a good coach. I think there's
Yeah.
a lot of other things going on that were prohibiting some of the things that he wanted to do. And so I was like, fine. I'm sure he's pleasantly surprised and pleased to not have a job in Cleveland anymore
Yeah.
because now he gets to work with his best friend Matt Ryan. And, and
Yeah.
like it's funny because it's like I'm there were all these stories coming out that like when he interviewed with Matt Ryan, they like became really good friends, and I'm like, yeah, I called that. Like
Yeah.
they're the same person.
Your
But
mentality with the Browns was me with the
but
Pittsburgh Pirates
yeah,
back end of
yeah.
last year. It's
Well,
like I'm
it's
not even
and
paying
so
attention anymore.
what
Like,
what I've said before too was I was like, fine, if you're gonna fire Stefanski, then you have to clean house
yeah.
and fire the GM who can't draft anybody.
Yes.
Like we've ruined like we traded all these picks for a quarterback that sucks, and all the people we drafted during the whole time never panned out anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like where the general manager Andrew Barry is allowed to keep his job because he drafted Harold Fannin. Like that's the only reason he still has a job.
Yeah.
Which like
Yeah.
okay.
The one bright, probably the one brighter spot of the season.
And so I don't know.
Is there a coach they could hire that could get you back on your interest for them?
I have a feeling they're just gonna hire Jim Schwartz, and it's gonna be so funny. I'm just like, this is
Man.
gonna be disaster. They're apparently having a second interview with that kid from the Jags, Grant Udinsky or whatever.
Okay.
That's gonna go one of two ways. He's either gonna be like the next Sean McVay, or he's going to be absolute dumpster fire because he's like never done anything. Like
Yeah. Well,
he was a coffee boy for Matt Rule at Baylor 6 years ago. Like this is what we're doing here.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because as much as I want to sit here and say it's really unfortunate how the more things change, the more they stay the same with some of these franchises. Look at the Bears this year. They hire Ben Johnson, right? And
Yeah.
and like they've turned into an unprecedented team. Also, like a little bit, there's nothing you can really compare to Indiana, but the NFL equivalent of look at all the talent we did have on this roster for the longest time, and now they're good.
Well,
In a
the
year,
very
their division was good
yeah.
too. They
Well,
won.
the very interesting thing about Ben Johnson in Chicago is we have now seen how much of the Lions was Ben Johnson.
Was Ben Johnson? Yeah,
Because this season was not what people thought it would be for Detroit when it was just on Dan Campbell.
crush them all you want, but Chris Collinsworth did say something on a Sunday Night Football game like way earlier in the year. I want to say it was when the Lions were playing, and I remember it was Chris Collinsworth who said, Lions fans out here probably if Lions fans are talking about Ben Johnson at any point this season, that's not a good sign because that means that they're talking about him for one of two reasons. Either the offense is struggling here in Detroit or the Bears are really good. And unfortunately, this year was both of those things
Yeah.
yeah. for the Lions. And also, let's be real, the Lions lost both their coordinators. So Campbell, incredible motivator, but that just goes to show that when you lose cogs in the machine, it tends to look different. And so,
Yeah.
and right there is one of the things that keeps the league so fair, right? And in college football to some degree, I mean, you get coordinators that move around, and it's like, well, coordinators really make things go. So both sides of the ball. So
Yeah.
I was just curious of that and used that example. But my point in bringing him up is theoretically the Browns could be one good coaching hire away from a change. Maybe not that big a change, but there's talent on the roster. Their defense is solid. Shador, you might have something in him. So
here's the thing. I would almost I would almost say hire the Udinsky kid, see what he has, because you're going to be hot garbage next year anyway. So just hire him anyway, see if he's good, and if he's not, fire him. So it's just like it's like, what do you have to lose here?
In a who knows what it looks like AFC North next year, by the way.
Right.
Really, truly,
because you're going to be tanking for one of these quarterbacks in next year's class anyway. So it's like you're not going to. There's nobody in this year's class that you're going to have a pick high enough to get. Like because by the way, because Stefanski won, so you don't have the first pick anymore. Like because Stefanski won his last two games, so you don't get the Heisman guy anymore. Which that's so funny to me that like Stefanski's middle finger on his way out of Cleveland was costing them the number one pick.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is what happened. Uh, that's all I have on the carousel. If you want to kind of get into the playoffs, here,
Yeah.
before we wrap it up, but I did get a chance to watch and slash listen to on Westwood One, the games last week. I will say, let me pop over here. The more okay, last week's games, impressive all the way around. The most impressed I was with any team was definitely the Chicago Bears. Just going down, they beat the Packers literally the exact same way they beat them like 3 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
Where Green Bay looks great, leading by as much as 21-3 in the first half, and then Chicago scores 3 points in the third, but then scores 25 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to win the game. I mean, I could hear the cheers in Chicago clear over here in Kent, man. Like, it was cool. That was my most impressed playoff performance so far, not counting Seattle last night.
Yeah, yeah. That
Get
is
to
a
that.
whole
We'll
other
get there.
conversation. I mean, honestly, I gotta say, I was really impressed with Houston.
Okay.
Just
Yeah,
because I didn't know I always
agree.
have a thing when you're talking about like Southern teams that live in a dome going up north when especially in January.
Hmm.
Like I didn't have a lot of faith in the Pittsburgh offense, but like I didn't think that Houston would be able to go 30-6 on them. Like because I was like I don't know how
Yeah.
well their offense is going to do, or I don't know how well they're going to play in the cold. But like I guess that's not a thing anymore. So I don't know.
They the roof caved in that fourth quarter. Like I was watching that game, it got to the point where we were watching the game. I said I was watching the game with the friends. We turned the game off. And I turned alerts on because I'm like, it's just gonna make me mad and sad the next quarter. I just can't do it.
Mhm.
And when I looked at the final score, I was just like, woof. I'm glad we turned that off. Like, So yeah, I'm with you. Impressive. And the Texans, what I don't want to get too much into the matchups that go happen today because they will already have passed by the time this show goes out. But we'll see what they do against the Patriots. Uh, this week, this week, this week,
Yeah.
this week. As the time of this recording, the I'm
So
chuckling.
we are
You know
recording
why I'm
this.
chuckling.
Yes, we are recording this before the Sunday games, so we don't know the outcome of Houston in New England and Rams in Chicago. But I'll just summarize. My two questions with those are the same question of can these warm weather teams that live in domes play in the cold? That is my big question for both those games.
Yeah, that's a
Because
yeah.
so if not, then it's Chicago and New England, but we'll see.
Yes. Fascinating couple of games yesterday. But man, Bills Broncos. The Bills, who had to really beat a tough Jaguars team on the road last week, a team that I thought was poised to make a run if they beat the Bills. Good nucleus there too, Duval. We'll see what happens. Yeah, man, the Bills fall in overtime to the Denver Broncos. A Denver Broncos team that will be without Bo Nix for the rest of the playoffs,
Yeah,
however long that
so
takes. So
yeah,
I,
so
I feel horrible for Broncos fans today.
yeah,
Like,
because
really.
that was a roller coaster like 45 minutes because it's like yeah
Oh,
we're going to the NFC title game. That's like Bo
we're
Nix broken
fu-
ankle out for the
like
year. What?
not only that, we're gonna host the AFC title game no matter
Yeah,
who wins. We're
yeah,
having another playoff game here in Denver, and we're legit. And Sean Payton and Bo looked good, like all that stuff. The defense looked incredible, actually. Quite
it's like
frankly,
we're going to the Super Bowl.
oh, you're thinking, oh, we're going to go Super Bowl 10 years. Let's do this, and then the deflating reality
Yeah,
of that sets in. The one thing I will say is, well, they have this whole week to prepare without Bo Nix. You know what I mean?
I mean
So
yeah, but like we're talking Jarrett Stidham here, so
I
it's
know,
like
I know. So,
hey, look if I hey Philip Rivers, you, you,
dude, one of the best stories of the year. Yes, and we have to talk about Buffalo because Casen texts me and friend of the show Matt and others and folks last night. I'm sure. What did you say to us?
I said what I've been saying for 3 years on this show is that the Buffalo Bills window is closed if it was ever open.
Yeah,
Um,
and my response to that, go ahead, go ahead.
okay, so look, I'm just gonna say this. You cannot, under any circumstances, the week you're playing a playoff game in Denver and a photo of your wife wearing a Broncos jacket goes viral, you cannot go out there and
Mm,
and have 4 turnovers in a game
mm. That did
and then
happen.
lose. Like you can't do that, man.
That did
You
happen.
can't do that.
Also, not to mention, just shout out the two of them. The previous Sunday, they looked so good as a couple. You had Josh Allen look good against the game against Jaguars, and then the
Yeah.
Golden Globes are that night, and Haley
Yeah.
Steinfeld is for the first time. She's looking great. She's there for Sinners. Sinners, wins awards itself, but she's pregnant now, of course. So, you've never seen a power couple look like that, and then of course the following week this happens. Um,
Tough. But I
tough.
look what I I would like to know
Mhm.
like what is going on because Josh gets up there at the podium after the game and is just like bawling his eyes out about how
He was the
sad
most
he is.
devastated, yeah, after
And
this
it's like
loss.
you should be because it's your fault, Josh. Like you want to talk about field goals and overtime. You had 4 turnovers.
He really is to blame for this one. I
Like
have to say, yeah,
you
because
had nobody in front of you to win a Super Bowl for the first time in your career.
yeah,
You had no Joe, no Mahomes, no Lamar, and it's just like you had no excuse.
he had, they everyone says, oh, did they even force overtime without him? I'm like, no, they were in like two separate positions to win the game in regulation, and they couldn't do it. And everyone says that like he should have passed to a wide
I
open receiver here versus there and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, he had a bad game. Like it wasn't good
never mind the fact that they shouldn't have even really been in a position to force overtime to begin
to
with
begin with. Yeah.
because they were getting clobbered so bad.
Yeah, I mean they got
Like
bludgeoned in the first half of that game. So, and they had to scramble to tie it at the end. And yeah, you're right. You're right. So maybe that right there is why he really showed his emotion because he really feels like for maybe the not the first time, but substantially at least this time that he really is the one to blame for this loss. Like you can't blame one player on losses, but like there was some stuff in there where I'm like, dude, this looks bad. Like,
well, I mean it was also a team effort too because there was this one play which I think it was the second touch. I'm trying to go through these notes and check. There was a touchdown.
mhm.
I can't remember what it was. It might have been the first touchdown for the Broncos, but there was a play where the Broncos fumbled the ball. The Bills picked it up, but then Larry Ogunjobi was offsides.
Yes,
So and I by the way, former Brown. So there you go.
of
That,
course.
that's his Browns tendencies coming through. But so it was a team effort all across the board, but it was especially led by Josh, and I think
Dude,
it's
I love I love when there are like multiple situations in a game where the ball is live, but it's like out away from everybody and there's like a mad scramble to it. That happened like twice in that game, and I was like, "Well, you like never see this happen in the NFL." I was like, "Oh, ball's on the ground," and
yeah.
then all these big, huge guys are just running to it. It's like
There there were 3 fumbles
that was
and
awesome.
2 picks. Like
Yep,
that's just come on. Like you can't be doing that.
you can't be doing that, man. Can't be doing
And
that.
so and I think it comes back to the fact that Josh has it was in his draft profile, which is why he didn't go as high as he should have. Looking at him now, is he is a careless player who does stuff like that a lot.
It's true.
And he hasn't really been the same at being and he's only gotten worse since Dayball left.
Since Dable left, you're the one who pointed that out. Yeah,
Of
Dable was
of
the one who
for
was getting the
whatever
most
for
out of it.
whatever reason, Dayball was able to get him to stop the picks,
Like,
stop the carelessness.
like he became the elite guy, Josh Allen under Dable. Like that
Yeah.
is what he turned him into that. You
Yes.
know,
And then
because
since Dayball
yeah,
left with Ken Dorsey and
hmm
Joe Brady, he's just gotten a little bit like it's because neither one of those guys has enough of a resume to put Josh in his place, and Dayball did.
yeah,
And so I think I am convinced it's because Dable was the last guy to sit him down and ream him and give
hmm
him so much crap. And so I maintain
really
that
chew him
of
out for the
like
mistakes.
I don't think either one of those young coordinators that don't really know what they're doing have the audacity to do that to him.
Or at very least have not been in the game long enough to like really do that to a star quarterback, right?
It also coincided with him getting his contract. So I
That's
don't know
true.
if maybe they feel like they can't because he has his
He has
250 plus contract or
his
whatever. But
QB money, yeah.
um,
So pulling it back, I don't know where the Bills go from here because the Bills have truly reached the point where I texted you guys this last night. I'm one of those people who has continued to push back on Casen's narrative that the window's closed, that technically, as long as they have Josh Allen, the window's not fully closed, or at very least the window is always going to be kept a crack open. I always felt that way when the Steelers had Big Ben, right? What I will say about this, though, is that even if you are not a firm believer like us that the window is closed and or closing or and or like kind of open, it's definitely closing now because they seem to be regressing. You know what I mean? They had the lane open this year. They didn't do as well down the stretch. Granted, they have a Patriots team led by Vrabel in this division that was making life difficult. They don't get the home field advantage that they usually have. They end up having to go on the road for those two, and then they don't get as far. They're starting to not even make it to that AFC Championship game to get on the doorstep of the Super Bowl. So, are we going in the wrong direction?
I
Yeah.
mean, look, I said
So,
it. I didn't necessarily mean this at the time, but this is now also what I'm saying is now you have Vrabel in the past with Drake May,
yeah.
who are I would be say who are probably not going to lose to you 2 times a year anymore. So it's just like
The Patriots under Vrabel
your
make me
window
extremely mad, but go ahead.
your window to win was when the Pats sucked, and now they don't suck anymore.
Yep.
And so back relegated to second place behind them in the division you go. It's just like I don't know what to tell you. Like your it is incredibly difficult to win in this league when your quarterback makes $50 million a year.
Mm,
That's just a fact. That is a
mm.
fact. If your quarterback has a cap hit of 50 plus up to 70, 80, then it is incredibly impossible to win in this league because you
That's
can't
why
afford to pay
everyone.
anybody else.
That's why a lot of the great quarterbacks are going to win
Because
on that rookie
this
deal.
this is the problem with the Chiefs now
Yep.
is Mahomes. If you don't remember, Mahomes signed a 10-year contract like 3 years ago.
Yep.
And it was all backloaded money. And so he was making like 40, which was a discount for quarterback money. And then next year he's gonna be making like 70.
Yeah, it jumps each year.
Along with Chris Jones making $45 million next year.
Yep.
And so you have $100 million of your cap space in two guys.
Hmm.
And so it's just incredibly difficult to do that once you establish players that earn that money.
To build a roster, I mean, absolutely, and that's just what Cason said is real. And I added that's why a lot of great quarterbacks win on their rookie deal. Uh,
That's why, in my opinion, when you're building a roster, quarterback is the last puzzle piece.
mm,
You have so say you have 3 years to develop players. Year one, draft defense, first round edge rushers, high round defensive backs. Second year, wide receivers. Second, like high
offensive
rounds of
lineman,
running backs, offensive
lineman.
linemen.
Yeah.
Yes, and then your last year you go quarterback, high first round pick. And then they're on a rookie deal for five
Maybe some
years.
receivers, maybe a running
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
Fill in whatever you don't have from the other two.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if
But
they're
like,
lower picks, do it.
so,
Yep.
which is my point of like, I almost say because of that, it is switched. When what we were saying was in the NFL, you have to give general managers and coaches 3 years to get this roster, to get like a tanked roster completely turned around. Because I'm serious.
You're
Because
right.
like,
No, yeah.
because like the constraints of structuring a roster for the NFL are actually harder than college now.
Oh,
Because with
absolutely.
college, you just pay anybody you want. And then
The contrast to what we said
there's
earlier.
no
Yeah.
rules. There's no rules.
You can
But
do
with the
whatever you want.
NFL, like in the NFL, you can't afford to just pay two dudes $100 million and expect to win a title. Like,
No, and that's right there. What keeps again another piece that keeps it parity there, right? Let me switch gears for this game, the other game that happened last night, because to your point, because if you look at the Chiefs' construction, very much that's
by
how
the by
that's
the
what happened.
by,
They
by the
were
way, by the way,
mhm.
I just want to throw this in too.
Yeah.
If you look at who's playing still, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bo Nix, cheap, cheap.
Cheap. And also, I was going to say, when you look at the Chiefs' rise, they were pretty good under Alex Smith, but they had all those pieces built,
They
Kelsey, all those guys, and then
they they
Mahomes came in.
they were playoff. They were in the playoffs. They were a good team, and then Mahomes took them over the edge.
Yep, and
Yep.
then yeah, the cake was formed. He was a lot of ways the icing. You know, is
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
and they just became a dynasty after that. I would argue that this current Seattle team is built very similar to that. The career,
I totally agree. It's
yeah,
just the difference is they signed a discount Darnold over drafting a young quarterback.
exactly,
Yeah.
and you know he works the system, and that Seattle. Let's be real, Seattle's a good franchise. They have good folks in place, and I will say this: the career trajectory of Sam Darnold, if they're able to go through and win the Super Bowl or at least make it to the Super Bowl, needs to be studied because you talk about a guy who was like left for dead. Jets. He's moved around. What he was in Minnesota, and then he was in Carolina.
He was at Carolina. Then he
Yeah.
ended up in Minnesota, where they like rehabbed him a little bit,
Uh-huh.
and then he got that a pretty good deal in Seattle.
And then Seattle, I mean, that last night, man, they looked like world beaters. I mean, they absolutely destroyed the 49ers. And it's funny, man. That game was over in the first quarter. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly,
Oh yeah.
it really was. When they made it 17-0 in the first, I thought, I have a feeling that they're just gonna stomp on these guys. That's all that happened. The rest of the game. And
Yeah.
at one point, you know, my friend who was staying with me was actually coming home, and he's like, does that say 41-6? I'm like, yep.
I was like, look, you got to know better than to try a sorry receiver like Crabtree on Seattle. So it's just like look, you had I have been saying it all. Like this year felt weird. I was like, Seattle's going to the Super Bowl. I had a feeling there's just like some weird stuff's gonna happen. Seattle just feels like a magic, like it just feels like a destiny kind of thing. So I don't know. I have a feeling Seattle is gonna win next week.
So,
Um,
just a question to clarify this: the winner of Rams Bears goes to Seattle no matter what, correct?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Because it's the 2-1 seeds who won, so it's Seattle and Denver.
if Bo Nix was still healthy, I'd be sitting here saying, "Are we going to get a rematch of the New York Super Bowl?"
Oh, 100%.
I'd be like, "Yeah, it's just going to be
I was
that."
saying that weeks ago.
Yeah,
I was like, it's going to be Seattle Denver. Now it's going to be Seattle Patriots.
it's
So
going to be a rematch of that Super Bowl.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be sitting here thinking that is unless Matt Stafford can work some Ram magic. I'll tell you what, he can do it.
I agree. I will say this: if Chicago beats the Rams, Seattle's in. If the Rams beat Chicago, I don't know. I don't know how confident I am
Rams
in
could
that.
be in, but
Yeah.
I think, dude, instant classic next week, Rams Seattle. If that happens, I mean, my goodness, like
Mhm.
I think both AFC Championship games could be well, except the AFC, maybe not as much without Bo Nix, but the NFC Championship game could be an instant classic. So, um, yeah, man, crazy stuff, man. That is good. Have you said everything you want to say about the NFL?
Uh,
I'm just asking you before I move on.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
That we can, because you know the
huh.
rest of it would just be breaking down the other two that are going to happen today. Go ahead.
Um, I was just looking. I was like, oh, the last time the Super Bowl was in San Francisco was Super Bowl 50, which also had the Broncos. It was
Yeah,
the year Peyton beat the Panthers. So,
I will say there's one last little element in there of a team that you
which is
said was
interesting.
impressed you earlier that that you know this could be a mute point depending on what happens today. The Texans are there, led by C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, I know. I
That defense.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
that defensive front. So look. I here's the thing. Well, I haven't seen. I don't think I've watched a Browns game since like September.
Mhm.
While that's been the case, I have watched every Chiefs game this year. I've
Of course
subjected
you
myself
have.
to that.
Of course you have.
Mostly because it was interesting to watch. And when I was watching the Chiefs Texans game, like it was like really the first time I saw the Texans this year, I was like, holy crap, that defensive line is insane.
Hmm.
Like I mean, leave it to leave it to them to like build that front. It, but like it was insane to see, and then watching them against Pittsburgh, I was like, okay, yeah, I can see it. So I can definitely see a universe to where Houston rolls in to Foxborough and they just eat Drake May for dinner. I mean, I can see that. Like
Yep,
I can
it could
see that.
happen. D'Amico Ryans, man, it could happen. I'm just saying, if
So
they
we'll
were to beat the
see.
Patriots today against a wounded Broncos team, look out. That could get ugly.
I look,
Actually,
I if the Super Bowl ends up being like CJ Stroud and the Texans versus Caleb Williams and the Bears, like that would be
yes,
what?
yes.
That would be just crazy.
We have fixed football. Listen, in what was actually a pretty mediocre, relatively year for football in my with my teams, the ones that I root for, relatively speaking, it was a pretty great year of football in terms of parity. We're gonna have all these new
Mhm.
champions, and like I said at the beginning of the show, paradigm shifting across the board,
Yeah.
man. I wanted to do a quick pop culture wrap up to end the
Yeah.
show, just because we usually do. I was literally just going to talk about a couple of things. One of the things we would have done, bro, is we would have done our top movies of 2025. Well, obviously we didn't get to do the year content. We can do an anticipated movies of 2026, maybe at some point, or just maybe anticipated pop culture works and or stuff we look forward to watching.
Yeah.
But if I had been sitting here and was going to give my film of the year to a movie, I was going to sit here and surprise you. What movie do you think was my favorite film in 2025, right off the top of your head?
I would guess Superman. Mhm.
Yes, you would guess that. My film of the year in 2025 would have been F1 the movie.
Okay.
Honest to
Fair.
goodness.
Fair.
And I think Superman would have been number two, but I think that, in a year where I became a bigger Formula One fan, not just because of this movie, but because like I really went out of my way to try and follow an entire season this year. A shout out, the hat I have on is actually McLaren. We had a new world champion that happened in our show's hiatus too. Lando Norris dethroned Max Verstappen to win the championship, the drivers' championship, and then of course they won the constructors. But F1 also is going to exclusively go to Apple TV next year, starting next season. But they're apparently going to utilize a lot of the new camera angles that quite literally, were invented for this movie to be shot. And I thought to myself, dude, now while it's like a streaming service, but if they add better coverage than what we've already had on ESPN, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? I'm all for stuff like that. So you didn't get to see F1, did you? The movie?
No, I did not.
I recommend it. It's very, very good. It's the same director as Top Gun Maverick, and very similar vibes to Top Gun Maverick, of course. I wanted to pop in here and just obviously it stars Brad Pitt, but Damson Idris is also incredible in there, and of course Javier Bardem is also in there. So everyone does a great job, and it's a movie I can't recommend enough. Obviously, Superman was my favorite comic book film of the year. We look forward to seeing Supergirl, of which there's now been a trailer released. That happened in our hiatus as well. Um, any movies you want to particularly talk about in this past year?
Um,
You don't have to either, movie or indoor show or something, whether we discussed it on the show or not.
look. I will. This will transition to my next topic,
Yeah,
Andor.
yeah, yeah. We had Andor in 2025, and
Um,
that's actually one of my favorite shows where we discussed it in length. That was back this past summer. Uh, it was incredible. Go ahead.
and speaking of big headline news in pop culture world, Kathleen Kennedy is out at Lucasfilm. She's
I was
stepping
hoping
down.
you would bring that up. I was
And
been wanting to kind of hear your thoughts on
the
it.
like I think it's been discussed, the role that she had is being split into two. There's somebody taking over the business side who's doing the like actual CEO type of stuff, and
Yeah,
then Dave Filoni, as expected, is taking over the content chief stuff.
your boy. Is that fair to say?
I I don't I look
Your
I
boy
agree
Dave
with
Filoni.
there are things we have there are things I like that he does. There are things that I question some of,
Sure.
but we'll see how this turns out because what is very objectively funny about this is he was like he was like I don't think Kathleen was actually done by the time people were already like talking talking bad about him on Twitter, saying like, "Oh, Dave Filoni hated Andor." Like that's been the whole big thing of like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Filoni's in now," and it turns out he actually hated Andor, but like that's not even true.
it's not true.
Um,
Yeah, from what I've
and,
gathered.
and so it's
Even if he did,
I
Andor's over. So
right. But like Andor was like the big thing that everybody liked. It was
yeah,
like probably the biggest success they've had.
yeah,
Which say what you want about Kathleen Kennedy, she put I don't know what was it $700 million into making Andor.
yeah,
Like, so I credit to her for making that because that was a
yeah.
departure and a risk, and it paid off. So
And Andor, I would go as far as to say Andor is my favorite Star Wars content we've gotten since Disney's had it. I mean, it is. I could rewatch the whole thing, and I have rewatched some of it. Go ahead.
what I do believe in Filoni is I do believe that he knows that, and I think that he knows that's the time. I think he's well aware
Yeah,
of the content that lands, and I think I trust him more than Kathleen to follow things through because in the wake of Kathleen Kennedy departing, there was also a bunch of news of like all these projects that were supposedly in the works that are now being stopped or scrapped or whatever. It's just like because of all this turnover, things are
hmm,
really up in the air, and so I do have a lot more faith in Filoni actually picking projects that will land and be successful and seeing that they end up getting made.
yeah.
And
And I look forward to talking about that with you. And I'm gonna sit here and believe in Dave Filoni.
yeah, yeah.
I've he's been responsible for a decent amount of Star Wars content that I and a lot of people who like the same kind of Star Wars as me have liked. So,
I do
yeah,
think the I do think the interesting thing though too is that he is now the chief content person for Lucasfilm,
yeah,
which includes Indiana Jones.
right.
And so I'll just which that was a Kathleen Kennedy thing because she's been around Lucasfilm forever and was like more aware of that, I think. So I'll just be very intrigued to see if he does anything with the indie IP
Indiana
moving
Jones.
forward.
I can see them.
I'm
I can see them
curious about that.
rebooting. They've been talking about rebooting it. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens with
I'd be
that.
really curious to see if he would to see a project that he would greenlight like that.
Yeah. Like I wanted to also say here, among franchises that I was following, obviously, phenomenon that we've never discussed on this show. So I will briefly just touch on Stranger Things came to an end. Stranger Things 5 released over the holiday season. It was a phenomenon, everything.
Mhm.
Obviously, you have not watched the show, couldn't get into it. That's fine. I think the only person really in my circle that I've had to talk to about it is friend of the show, Matt, and that's fine. I will say ultimately, I liked the ending of Stranger Things. I can see why it disappointed some folks. I was one of those people saying that comparing it to the end of Game of Thrones is crazy to me because Game of Thrones truly ruined the entire series for a lot of people. For me, the ending of Stranger Things caps everyone's story off in a very satisfying way, and brings what is by and large and by far the most um, successful so far, and I would argue important Netflix original show to a good close. And for them, the Duffers to give us 5 seasons of incredible content like that over the last 10 years, very impressive. Did it come to, did everything I wanted to happen in it happen? Not necessarily. Am I okay with just about every choice? Yes, I am. And they leave a pretty big thing up to interpretation of your own, depending on what kind of fan you are, which I thought they did in a pretty brilliant way. So call me a homer, call me what it will, but like the people who are absolutely crushing the thing online, negative takes get louder views. It's just how it goes. But I thought Stranger Things was brought to a good end. The last thing I had here, obviously, all the love for Superman. Go listen to our Superman show. That was another great thing. The last thing I wanted to touch on here, because I wanted to hear your take on this, and then we can roll out of here. We are getting the official rollouts we got the official rollouts and teasers of Avengers Doomsday, which now there's an
Yes,
official
yes.
clock to heck, our review of that movie will have come out this time a year from now, right? While we're
Yeah.
also talking about how there's going to be no baseball in 2027 and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
While
yeah,
we're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about that too. The rollouts happened. The teasers all have come out. I've seen all of them. And I am going to go ahead and just say right here on the cast that the whole marketing campaign for this movie feels off to me. Um, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is. Maybe it's just because it feels so desperate. It feels like a lot of what we've had over the last 5 years didn't matter. I don't hate the teasers or anything. I don't necessarily see it, but like anytime you're doing a thing where you are going to bring back legacy characters that had a very satisfying end to their story, it fills me with a lot of risky doubt and everything. And I don't really count that with Robert Downey Jr. because he's playing a different version of the character.
Are you saying Cap?
Primarily, yeah, Steve Rogers, Chris Evans coming back. We don't know in
Yeah.
what capacity. Seeing Thor again made sense. I was like, yeah, Thor's still around. The
Yeah,
Fox
which I
X-Men
think I
part
think
of
we all kind
this,
of expected.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we all kind of expected Hemsworth to be back.
The best teaser by far was the one that just came out where Zuri's there as the Black Panther and the Thing walks up and it's like, "Hey, nice to meet you." That was the coolest one. I thought, "Oh, this feel that." I'm like, that teaser feels like old school Marvel, where we have characters that we didn't think would interact. And also, people forget this: Black Panther's first appearance was in the Fantastic Four comic. Just throwing it out there. Um,
Yeah,
like a lot of stuff. So it made sense. I thought that was pretty cool. And I thought, again, I was like, man, it would be really cool if this was Chadwick doing this. You know what I mean? But regardless,
oh,
it's Shuri. It's Letitia
yeah.
Wright. It is what it is. Um, so yeah, that's my take. But some of it feels desperate, some of it feels forced, and some of it's just a
So
little weird to me. Go ahead.
okay, so I get what you're saying. I From what I've heard or the rumors or whatever, however true, whatever, I don't know. But what I've seen is two things. One, the plot about Doomsday revolves around Cap because I think what they're saying is that like Doom is like coming because of rips in the multiverse caused by Steve Rogers putting the stuff back and
Yeah.
then and by him staying back there. And so I get it, but like I think the whole point of it relies on him changing history by
Mm.
going back to stay back in time. Um and whatever ends up happening with that. And then two, from what I've seen, or there have been some kind of comments made or something that the clips that are coming out aren't even from the movie.
Mm.
That they're like stuff that was filmed during filming for the purpose of these to like
That I
provide
could
some
believe.
sort of like to sort of
That I can
provide
totally
some
believe.
kind of like backstory to where people are.
Yep. Like these are we're seeing glimpses of off-screen moments
Yeah,
before the
yeah,
movie starts. I can
yeah,
get that. I can get
yeah.
behind that a lot. In fact, I love that. Thank you for telling me that. I didn't heard that. So
I don't know if it's true or not, but that was something that I saw, and I don't know.
for the entirety of the saga under Kevin Feige, they have always put stuff in trailers that doesn't make the cut. Like significant stuff that's in
Yeah,
trailers that doesn't make the final cut of the film. So I can totally believe that. These are teasers, you know? I will say I think we're getting our first legit trailer during the Super Bowl. Apparently there's going to be a lot of that stuff. I'm looking forward to it. Apparently, there's going to be a lot of stuff. Also, apparently, Brand New Day is going to have a trailer for the Super Bowl. That makes perfect sense to me because that movie's this summer. Um, but you just in like one little paragraph made me feel better about him. So thank you. About the marketing,
yeah. I mean,
you did.
I look, I get what you're saying about like changing stuff, but again, I will sort of forgive a lot of that because, like we've said before,
Yeah,
they were building up to the Kang stuff that they had to scrap, and
yeah,
so they
everything. Yeah,
really the only stuff that matters is like the stuff that's happened last year.
yeah.
Like they've had to change the direction several times, and it is what it is. I mean, it sucks that it happened, but like that was the position they were put in,
Yep.
and
Fantastic
look,
Four was a good movie, despite what Casen
I
says.
I didn't say it was bad. I never said it was bad. I just I don't know. I mean, I just I thought it was okay. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I don't know what I was
Go
expecting,
listen to
but
that episode. He ragged on it pretty hard. I think.
okay. Okay.
But anyway, yeah, anything less than like glazing like we did with Superman, I suppose, seems
Okay,
weird. But
look,
no, that's ridiculous. But yeah,
when it comes to Fantastic Four, I probably unfairly had too high of expectations on it.
that's fair.
That's probably on me. It is what it
It's all
is.
good. It's all
But
good. And then, of course, the last low light of the entire year 2025 was Ironheart. Woof.
yeah,
That's
woof,
that. Those are
woof.
two of my favorite episodes, just because hearing we haven't really completely like destroyed very many things on this podcast
I
before. That makes two things now
what's
because
funny?
Ironheart and the Acolyte both
What
got destroyed on our show.
what's funny is that you say that you say this, and I totally forgot that even existed.
Exactly,
Like
exactly.
I was like, oh, that's a thing that
Oh
existed.
yeah, that was in 2025 too. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's actually one of the reasons why our main Superman show is one of my favorite ever because we spend the first part of that show destroying the end of Ironheart, and then we talk about how great Super.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally forgot that happened, but yeah. Anyway, so I think there were a lot of good things, a lot of bad things that came out last year, and we'll at some
Sorry,
point here soon talk about
sorry, my mic
uh
cut out. My bad.
no,
My
you're
bad.
fine.
I was laughing.
You're
My
fine.
mic cut out. Go ahead. Yep.
I was just saying at some point here soon we'll talk about what's to come in pop culture this year, and we'll talk about those when that happens.
It's good to be back, man. This is Kellen,
This is Casen.
and we'll see you as always at the next stop.